James Walker was a man whose presence was impossible to ignore. Towering at 6 feet 8 inches, with broad shoulders and hands calloused from years of carpentry, he had the build of someone who could effortlessly move mountains. But behind his imposing exterior was a heart full of gentleness and kindness. James lived in the quiet town of Riverbend, nestled between emerald forests and rolling hills. It was a place where neighbors knew each other's names, and life moved at a slower, kinder pace. James worked as a carpenter, a skill passed down from his father and grandfather. The smell of freshly cut wood and the rhythmic sound of his tools shaped not only furniture but also the calm rhythm of his life. Although he loved his craft, James often felt the quiet loneliness that sometimes comes with a solitary life. His days were filled with work, and his evenings mostly spent reading or sitting by his fireplace. Across the street lived Mrs. Helen Thompson, a woman in her early 70s who carried herself with a graceful dignity. Her silver hair framed a face etched with soft wrinkles, each one telling a story of years spent teaching and nurturing young minds. Helen had been the town's beloved librarian for decades before retiring a few years ago. She was known for her warmth, wisdom, and generosity. Her garden bloomed with roses and lilies, and her house welcomed everyone with the scent of fresh, baked bread and jasmine. For years, James and Helen had shared nothing more than nods and polite smiles. Their lives seemed to move on parallel tracks, occasionally crossing in passing waves of greetings. But fate has a way of weaving lives together when least expected. One cold October afternoon, as amber leaves swirled in the breeze, Helen's ancient car sputtered and stalled right outside her home. She tried turning the key again and again, but the engine refused to start. The frustration and worry crept into her eyes, and she looked helplessly around for assistance. James had just returned from his workshop when he spotted her struggle. Without a second thought, he crossed the street and offered his help. His deep, calm voice cut through the chill in the air. "Need some help, Mrs. Thompson?" Helen's face lit up with relief. "Oh, James. Yes, please. I'm afraid I don't know much about cars." James smiled gently and asked if she had jumper cables. Together, they managed to coax the car back to life. After ensuring everything was all right, James accepted Helen's invitation to come inside for some warm tea. The cozy warmth of Helen's living room was a welcome contrast to the crisp autumn air outside. The aroma of chamomile tea and cinnamon filled the space as they settled down to talk. Helen began sharing stories about her years at the library, the children she had helped discover the magic of reading, the community events she had organized, and the quiet joys of her job. James listened intently, fascinated by the passion she exuded for such a seemingly simple, yet vital role. In return, James spoke of his work with wood, how each piece was different and required patience and care to transform into something beautiful. He told Helen about the furniture he had crafted for local families and the pride he took in creating something with his own hands. Time slipped away unnoticed, and by the time James left that evening, a new friendship had taken root. Over the following weeks, James found himself visiting Helen more frequently. Sometimes it was to fix a leaky faucet or a creaky door. Other times, it was just to share a cup of tea and conversation. Helen introduced James to the world of gardening. She taught him how to plant bulbs, prune roses, and care for delicate plants. James, who was used to working with sturdy wood, found delight in nurturing fragile blooms. In turn, James crafted a beautiful wooden bench for Helen's garden where they could sit and enjoy the flowers. Their friendship blossomed through these shared moments. They learned from each other. James found solace in Helen's wisdom and calm, while Helen found joy in James's strength and gentle spirit. Their conversations ranged from books and history to dreams and fears, bridging the gap between their generations. One spring day, Helen invited James to a community volunteer event. Together, they helped organize a book drive at the local library. The event was a success, and the townspeople admired their teamwork and dedication. James began to feel a renewed sense of belonging in Riverbend, something he hadn't experienced in a long time. As summer arrived, James and Helen spent afternoons on her porch swing, sipping iced tea and watching the world go by. They talked about everything: the past, the future, and the simple joys of life. Helen often shared poetry she loved, and James surprised her with wooden bookmarks he had carved himself. Their friendship was a reminder that meaningful connections could be found at any age and in the most unexpected ways. James often thought how lucky he was to have Helen's friendship, a beacon of light in his otherwise quiet world. One winter, when a harsh storm swept through Riverbend, Helen fell ill. James was there every day, bringing hot meals, running errands, and keeping her company. Their bond deepened in those challenging times, showing the true strength of their relationship. After Helen's recovery, they celebrated with a garden party, inviting neighbors and friends to share in the joy of life and friendship. It was a beautiful moment, full of laughter, music, and stories. Years passed, but James and Helen's friendship remained steadfast. They taught their community the power of kindness, respect, and the beauty of human connection that transcends age and size. In a world often focused on differences, James and Helen showed everyone that what truly matters is opening your heart to others.